It's that time of year when last season probably seems a distant memory and the thought of summer and being race fit is pretty unimaginable. Now, however, is the perfect time to start planning for next season. Now, choosing races that complement each other and will work well for your season is a pretty big task and it takes some time and thought. So it's a good idea to put that time aside and then work those dates out and work your training backwards so you know where you need to start right now. And it can be pretty daunting, but don't worry, we're here to guide you. It is time to get excited for next season. In order to train, you need a goal. So let's start by finding an event that gets you motivated and desperate to head out the door and get fit again. Now, after last season, hopefully you took a little bit of time to reflect and looked at what it was you enjoyed. Now, maybe you want to up things from there. You might want to go longer. You might want to find a tougher race, maybe something that's more scenic, or go to a different location, which you could combine with a holiday, or maybe flip that around and you've decided you want to get some speed back into your training and into your racing and look for a shorter distance. You could even have your main goal as something outside of triathlon, whether that's an ultra marathon or a big swim event. It really is going to be up to you, but you've got to find something that gets you excited. And remember to factor in other life commitments as well. Say a friend's wedding, you don't want to double book a race with that, and you probably don't want to have a race just a week after your family holiday, for example. And you might have problems that you're struggling to actually have enough leave time left from work. Well, with that in mind, you could even combine your race with a holiday. There are so many options and they're all going to be individual for you, but taking the time now to really plan your season and making sure you don't have any disappointments and have to cancel anything is certainly worth the time. Once you've decided on that key race or couple of races, the distance that it's going to be and when in the year it falls, you can then work out the rest of your season and any complementary events that you want to fit around it. Now, here on GTN, we have spoken about season structure in the past, where you choose that big race, which we call the A race. And like I said, it could be 2 of those. And then you might have a few B races to help sort of work towards it and complement it. And then some other smaller races to fit around it, which we call C races. Now, racing in itself will help you to get fit because naturally you're going to push yourself that bit harder than you would in training. And that's where these C races come in really handy, because you don't need to taper for them. They're just small events, can even be individual races, but they'll help you to really find that top end fitness, especially if you've been working really hard in a long block of tough training. So B races are races that you choose to do in their own right, but you have to make sure that they won't detract from the main goal. So it needs to be something that obviously complements with that A race. So let's say you've chosen to do an Ironman and you're doing it in the latter phase of the season, so maybe say August. Well, depending on where your base fitness is now, you'll need a bare minimum of 3 months of training, but ideally a little bit more so you can really build into it. And then to complement that, you could do, say, an Olympic distance race or a half Ironman. Now, the advantage of a half Ironman, obviously it's more similar in its training style because it's a longer distance race, but that means you'll need longer to recover after it. But if you want to use an Olympic race as your B race, then think of doing that maybe slightly earlier in the season so you can really do a good job of it, and then you can start to add in more endurance later on as you build up towards that Ironman. But on the flip side, there's nothing to stop you bringing a longer distance race earlier into the season, say doing a half Ironman or an Ironman in June, and then planning another race later on in September. And that could be maybe another Ironman, or it could even be something shorter and faster because you'll have that endurance base you can then build the speed on. But it really is key when you're doing a big race such as an Ironman that you make sure you have enough recovery. You might feel fine to come back and desperate to get back into racing, but if you don't give your body the chance to really recover from that, you'll find as you get closer to your second A race that you won't be able to find that top end speed, and by then it'll be too late. So basically, with a few months apart, you can target 2 key races or A races, whatever you want to call them, and whether they're the same distance or maybe something that's slightly different, as we talked about earlier. And if it helps you to visualize, then you could think of splitting your race season into part A and part B, but making sure that you've got the recovery and the plan in place. That really is important. And then it's back to that complementary race. So if you do want to do different distances, I'd suggest either doing a half Ironman and Ironman and putting them together, or doing a sprint and Olympic distance together. And then obviously in the middle, you could also do a half Ironman distance teamed with an Olympic distance race, which we've seen quite a few of the ITU pros doing successfully this year. That's races sorted, so now you need to build your training blocks around that and put them into place to complement those goals. And like I said, hopefully you did take some time out after the race season and looked at what went well and what didn't, so both in training and in racing. And it could have been anything from maybe wanting to work on your swim, it wasn't quite where you wanted it, or the power on the bike was a little bit lacking. Maybe you weren't happy with your race weight, or you're struggling with injuries on the run. Whatever it is, it's going to be very personal, and there might be quite a few of them, but try to narrow it down to just a maximum of 2 points, and then you can really focus on them and put them into your goals for this season. The pre-season is a great time to address and start to work on these goals. Say it's weight loss, well, you want to start doing that now, not midway through your race-specific training when you need the calories to actually be able to train really hard. The same for weight training. It's all going to take quite a while to actually adapt and for your body to benefit from it, so the sooner you start that, the better. And then for swimming, well, having a real breakdown of your stroke and getting some analysis, it's best to do it now whilst you've got a little bit more time, but obviously you want to carry on working through that throughout the whole season. But the sooner you start to make these changes, the more chance you have of getting them nailed by the time it comes to race day. As for the type of training that you need to structure in, we'll start off by looking at that first day race and then work backwards. So 12 weeks prior to that, you're going to need that really race-specific style of training, and try and find a program that you know suits you and will get your body tuned ready for race day. And then take back another 12 weeks ahead of that, and that's your pre-season build-up. And it's when you're going to be doing that endurance work, really laying those foundations. So a lot of longer bits of training and also strength work as well, but still remember to keep in some faster stuff, as that will keep you mentally stimulated, but also address all aspects of your fitness. And anything that you do now will really help later on, and you won't be able to catch up on that valuable time that you put in. So strength and conditioning becomes really important. And then the other aspect you need to consider is the recovery, both from training and from racing. So if it's a big training block or you've done a B race, you'll need some recovery time, because that's when your body actually adapts and gets stronger. And then if you're looking at actually recovering from an A race, if it's say an Ironman, you'll need at least 2 months before you race again. And if you're planning another Ironman distance race in the season, then I'd recommend having at least 3 months in between them. Making a season plan is great for your motivation, for working out your diary with your friends and your family, and ultimately for getting that best performance on race day. All of this said though, do keep an open mind when it comes to your season, and be prepared to adapt as you go, because you never know, you might take longer to recover from a race, or you might have some illness that gets in the way, or maybe you start performing really well on the bike and decide you need to focus a little bit more on your run. But once you've got the plan in place, you know it's there, you can fall back on it and you can just adapt as you go. But for me, I must say it's all about that motivation. And talking of which, I think I need to actually go and start to plan my season and commit a little bit to paper. But hopefully this has motivated you, and you guys are now out there planning your A, B, and maybe even C races. Well, let us know what you've got in the diary, and give us a thumbs up like if you've enjoyed us. Hit the globe to subscribe. And if you want some tips for strength and conditioning for triathletes, it's a great time of year to get into that. You can find that video just down here. And if you want to know how to structure a swim workout, we've got some tips for you just over here.